This is for Algebra 2-3, the polynomials unit, and it's currently page 9 of the notes, and there's just 4 problems here on writing the equation of polynomial functions. So, if I give you the roots, what I'm asking for is the equation. Usually I give you the equation, want you to solve for x, but here I'm already giving you the values of x. So let's look at example 1. Example 1 says the roots are 2, -3, and -4. So this means x is 2, x is -3, and x is -4. So I'm just splitting it into 3 parts. And then we want factors because we want to be able to multiply them together to figure out what the polynomial is. So I'm going to subtract the 2 here. I get x minus 2 as my factor because I have x minus 2 equals 0, and then I'm about to I'm about to multiply them together. So then I add 3 to the other side, I add 4 to the other side, and it all equals 0. So now I have my 3 factors equaling 0. And then I'm going to FOIL. So I'm just going to take the first 2 and FOIL them together. So I have a trinomial. I skipped the step. We should be really good at foiling now. So I got a positive 3x and a minus 2x, and I went ahead and combined them. And now we have a trinomial times a binomial. We need to multiply them together. So I get x to the third plus 4x squared. X times x, x times 4. -6 times x, -6 times 4. We're going to combine like terms, so I have x to the third plus 5x squared plus, minus 2x minus 24 equaling 0. So we set each root that was given equal to x, solved for the factor, FOILed, multiplied, distributed, all that work, combine like terms, and then make sure your final answer is equal to 0. Example number 2. It says x is 5 and 3i. Now, here's where we're going to have to make an assumption about what also works. So I know if 5 works, that's the only thing I can assume. There's nothing else that goes with it. But if 3i works, something else should also work. -3i. So here you'll have to make the assumption for both. So I have x equals 5, x equals 3i, x equals -3i. X minus 5, x minus 3i, x plus 3i equals 0. So I'm working my way backwards. Now, after that step, we look. And you can go ahead if you want and FOIL the first 2, but your life would be a little bit harder because you're dealing with an I and an X. My suggestion is do the 2 that have an I in them. So both of these have an I. I'm going to do those first. And it just makes it a little more simple because you'll see what happens to the i's. I get x squared plus 3ix minus 3ix minus 9i squared. Your i's actually will go away. So the middle terms cancel, and I squared's -1. So I have x squared, 2 negatives make it plus 9. And there's my new binomial. And then I have x minus 5 times the x squared plus 9. So whenever you have imaginary numbers or if you have radicals, do those first because it will actually get rid of the i's while you're foiling. I've never given you an equation that had I to begin with. None of your polynomial functions will have an I in the equation. Last step, we're going to distribute. So I get x to the third plus 9x minus 5x squared minus 45 equals 0. Do not leave it like that. Okay, you do need to make sure it's in descending order. So x to the third minus 5x squared plus 9x minus 45 equals 0. You have to have the equals 0 to make it an equation. Okay, let's try the next one, number 3. X equals 2 and negative square root of 2. So this is where we're going to make our assumption, and we also assume a positive square root of 2. Feel free to stop the video and work ahead. So I've set it up. Each has a factor now. I subtracted 2, I added square root of 2, I subtracted the square root of 2. Same suggestion here. Multiply the two radicals together first. It's going to work just like the I because I've never given you an equation that had a radical in it to begin with. When we're talking about the polynomials, you never had a radical to begin with. The middles cancel, and I get x squared minus the square root of 4 is 2. One last step, we FOIL, I get x to the third minus 2x squared minus 2 plus 4 equals a 0. Now I did a little rearranging there as I FOILed, so double check and just make sure that you put it from greatest to least. Okay, we have one more, number 4. I gave you that negative 2i works, so we're going to make the assumption that a positive 2i does as well. I have 4 factors here, so that means my answer is going to be an x to the 4th. It's going to be the 4th degree. So I'm writing down all my factors. Same thing here. Multiply the i's together first. Your life will be much easier. Cancel in the middle, x squared plus 4 is your new binomial. Now, from here you can kind of do whatever you want as far as multiplying. I suggest doing the first 2 together, because if you do that, you at this point then will have a trinomial, whereas if you multiply these 2, you'll have a polynomial of 4 terms. So what I suggest, do these 2 next. You get x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now we have a trinomial times a binomial, so we need to go ahead and multiply those out. You get x to the 4th plus 4x squared. So that was here and here. 4x times x squared is 4x to the 3rd. Then there is 4x. We go right here, negative 5x squared, negative 20 on the end. Double check my work here. Should be 16. X squared. Yes, this should be 16. Sorry, it was 4x times 4. Should be 16x. Then minus, yep, now I'm okay. So I have x to the 4th. Then I have my x to the 3rd. My x squareds, combine those. My 16x, my negative 20. And then don't forget, all of this equals 0. That's what's making it an equation, so you have to have that part of it.